Smart here, and I hope that you are having a fabulous day. Today I want to share my thoughts with you on homeschool versus virtual school. I was going to say reality school. No such thing. So as most of you know, I am a homeschooling mom of 2, and what I have found out in my search, we're in our 2nd year of homeschool, and what I have found out with me being a busy mom, having 2 businesses, having a husband, having 2 children, and having 2 children to homeschool, is that life gets busy. And sometimes it can get a little overcomplicated, and the way that I have tried to negate the overwhelmity, I just made that up, of balancing it all is to make sure, number one, that my children are getting the best education possible, and in doing so I thought it would be a great idea to get some supplemental help. So first year I did all my own curriculum. If you have more questions about that, be sure to put them down below, and I'd be happy to answer any questions, because I get the question all the time of how did you put your curriculum together, what did you use? And there is a particular website, and I can't even think of it right off the top of my head. This is not about that, but I used their worksheets because they were suited by grade level, skill level, and I put those together as packets and lessons, and actually wrote out my own lesson plans in the first year, so that the girls could get a well-rounded education. Going into the 2nd year, or let me back up, the first year, things got really hectic. Things got really busy for me as a entrepreneur, because my businesses boomed. Like, business took off, and it was like this whole flip-flop between giving my time to my business because it's like a baby of its own, and then really being able to still maintain and manage the homeschooling curriculum for the girls. And so it just got to be a lot, and sadly some of the education that I wanted to give them, some of the abilities that I wanted to give them, started to slack. And as soon as I noticed it, which was pretty much right away, I knew I had to do something. So my next course for the year coming up, which is this year, was to get them private tutors. Well, school started and it just kind of came out of nowhere. Again, my business was on the roll, and I was traveling more, and so I was like, I'll figure it out. I can do it. I'll make it work. But one thing that I thought would be helpful as a supplement would be to put them into online school, which is actually virtual school. And I know a lot of you guys are gonna watch this video and think, she's bashing, you know, these 2 schools, and a lot of you have your children in these schools probably already, and you're gonna think, oh my gosh, am I not giving my child the best? This is what I want to say as a disclaimer. Number one, every video that I do is all about my opinion and experience, right? It's all about my opinion, my experience, and giving you guys the ability to kind of open up and see what else is possible, whether it's in life, in business, like this video with me talking about homeschooling the girls, whatever it is, it's all my opinion, but it's also giving you an opportunity to know that there is a different way, there's a different option. And so I never want anyone to think that my way is the only way or the best way, because whatever is going to work for you and your family is going to work. Just like this video that is very, very, very unprofessional as I'm zooming in and zooming out. It's just what it is, right? We're learning as we go. We're doing what's best for the time at hand, for the situation that we're currently in. In future videos, you'll probably see the quality and design of these videos be top-notch and much better than they are. But right now, today, we're starting where we are, and the most important thing to me at this point in time is making sure that the information that I share and that I give out conveys the message that I want to represent, and to get you guys the best information that I can share as a working mom with 2 businesses, and being a homeschool mom, a traveling mom, and family things to boot, right? Not to mention the things for my personal life and in the community, and etc., etc. Just making a space for it all. So in my pursuit to give my girls the best education possible, and to make sure that nothing was being negated from them and they were getting all that they needed, I tried out Connections Academy first. I am not a sponsor, nor am I really here to bash either one, but I'm going to tell you my truth and my experience, because not often do we experience the whole spectrum of a thing. Usually we go in for a specific thing, as I went in for Connections Academy, and had what happened with Connections Academy not happened, I would have never known about K-12. Had I not stretched out, and expanded to do homeschool, I wouldn't have known about any of this world, right? So I'm only able to tell you by experience. And so since I know a lot of people don't experience the whole gamut, I'm going to share as much as I can. So Connections Academy, it started off great. In my mind at the time, I'm thinking this is homeschool. But what I quickly learned, and I'll just go ahead and say from Connections Academy, that was last year, I really started researching it because I knew coming up for the next school year, I wanted to do something different and take some of the weight off of my plate of having to plan curriculum, etc., etc. And there's curriculums out there, by the way. Abeka, I think is the name of it. It's a great curriculum. It's a Christian-based curriculum from what I understand. There's some African-American-based curriculums, and I forget the name of that school, but it's you can easily Google search for homeschool curriculums, and they're all self-teaching, but the curriculums are put together for you. None of that was good enough for me when I started out. I am gung-ho about being able to conquer and do anything because I'm a genius. And so I was going to just put together my own curriculum. I went to the teacher's bookstore. I'm sure you have one in your city or somewhere nearby, and it's open to the public. And I went in there and I looked at curriculum. I looked at books. They have different authors, different textbook curriculums, and I put together what I thought was best for my girls. And let me just say, one thing that I am concrete about when it comes to the homeschool atmosphere is that you learn so much about your child's potential and ability. I learned because my girl started homeschool when my youngest was she was going from 2nd grade to 3rd grade, and my oldest was doing, she was coming out of 4th grade going into 5th grade. So I had a 3rd grader and a 5th grader when we started homeschool, excuse me. And so what I found out immediately is that my 3rd grader mastered 3rd grade work. I found this out immediately before I even bought the curriculum because I had paid attention and kind of noticed what level she was on. And let me just say, it was not based on the school. The school would have put her in 4th grade for the next year, which was her next grade, or excuse me, 3rd grade for the next year, which would have been her next grade. But I quickly found out just through some, their reading has always been really, really good. For those of you who have little ones, very young, not of school age yet, maybe under 5 or 6 and under, especially if they're 2 and 3, a lot of people ask me, well, how did you get your girls to read so early and so quickly? I'm not ashamed to say my children watched a lot of Sesame Street. However, in all seriousness, I did flashcards. Yep, flashcards. And I started with the letter flashcards. We did the pictures. We went on to the letters. We went to the colors. We went to the words. We went through the numbers. And they did watch a lot of Sesame Street and a lot of other anything on demand that was educational. And I know the pediatrician is asking you, are they getting less than 2 hours of screen time or 1 hour of screen time a day? I did what worked for me as a busy mom running around trying to take care of a household, taking one to preschool while one was at home, and before I had two, I had one, and I did what I thought was going to make sure that she got the education that she needed. I did do what was the program, ABC Mouse. I did do that for the youngest one for some time, and it seemed to work really well. I liked the program, I liked the setup, and it seems like she learned quite a bit, but that was later. This was after they could already really had started reading. So they learned to read very, very early. By the time they went to preschool, they were reading, both of them, and I even had teachers come and say, you did an amazing job, because she can read, she comprehends. And it's not just the reading, it's the comprehension that matters. So when they're able to read and they're able to understand it at the same time, that is amazing, because in life, reading is one thing, but comprehending and understanding what's being conveyed or said is most important. So side note to that, because a lot of parents would ask me about the reading abilities of my girls, and they were reading very early. Before preschool, they both could read before they went to preschool. And so with Connections Academy and with K-12, what I found was everything about them, and this irritated me, if I could just be honest, everything about them was a setup for public school. And what I later found, the reason why I took them out of public school, let me go back to that, there's various reasons. One, for my oldest, was bullying, and two was we went to school. Now, check this out. My girls have gone to school in Texas, in Arkansas, and in Washington State. So it wasn't just the school the state that we're in currently, which is Washington State. They've gone to multiple schools. And so I've had a chance to see what it's like in multiple schools. And so in Arkansas, I found a lack of teachers caring, and that's my home state. That's where I was born and raised. But I found a lack of teachers caring, and I kept saying to myself, this is so different than when I went to school. This is so different than what I experienced. And it's a small town. There's 4 elementary schools or 5 across the whole city. 1 high school in the major part of the city, 2 on the outskirts. And then some further out. But in the immediate school district, there's 1 high school, 1 junior high school, and about 4 or 5 elementary schools to choose from. That's it, outside of private school. And so although they went there, they had a good time. My kids, participated in activities, cheerleading, the school play, etc., etc. When it came to the teacher, we had some back and forth type of things happen just because we really wanted to make sure their education was being squared in on. And just so happened, both of my girls' teachers were pregnant at the same time. And if you have been pregnant, moms, emotions and things happen. You're tired, you're not always at your best. And that's just every day being a woman, right? We just have a million things going on. So I even gave slack for that. But at what point do you stop giving slack and excuses for your child's education not being up to par? I'm very against standardized testing, because what's standard about your child is not standard about my child, right? Totally different people, totally different personalities. That's a whole nother thing. But when it came to homeschooling, I found myself saying for a couple of years, I could never homeschool. I would never be able to do that, because I know how it was for me in school. And I was a very good student, a very smart girl up until about the high school time. And, that math just wasn't clicking for me. And I really didn't have the support that I needed to conquer that genre of learning. And so I was like, I could never do homeschool. I could never whatever. But then something clicked. I am the same woman who taught them how to use the potty, taught them how to use a fork and a spoon, how to say yes, no, thank you, how to throw things in the garbage can, how to brush their teeth, how to get in the bed and put themselves to sleep instead of me having to rock them. Got them through those stages to where now you can get in the big girl bed and you can go to sleep on your own, how to go to potty, how to take a bath, how to know to look both ways for cars. So if I've been teaching them all this time, this is for you, mom, that's thinking about homeschooling but you don't think you can. If I've brought them up from birth and I've kept them alive, kept their heart beating up into school age 5 or 6, who am I not to be able to teach them? Why wouldn't I be able to teach them? It's a learning period for all of us. And so I put that in my mind and I immediately said, okay, I'm going to do this. I can do it. So K through 12 and Connections Academy are probably great programs for those who it works for. And some people, it just works for your life, your lifestyle, and what it is that you want. But what I found out through a lot of the mishaps that happened to my girls in school was that I didn't want anything that looked like public school. I didn't want anything that resembled the public school atmosphere. And Connections Academy and K through 12 are so much like public school. They're built with the curriculum on public school. Connections Academy, if I had to choose between the two, I would have to choose Connections Academy over K-12, and this is why. Connections Academy gives you a little bit more of a flex in the learning style, while K through 12 is really all about school. You have to participate in live school meetings or actual live class with the teacher at a certain period between the 8 and 4 or 8 and 5 o'clock range. I forget exactly if it's 8 to 4 or 8 to 5. There's some plugins. You need to be able to have headphones, and you need to be able to have some type of camera access or webcam, because you need to be able to interact with the teacher at some point. And while all of that may seem like a plus, my family is a traveling family. My youngest is just now starting to get into acting, and we'll be taking her on some auditions here soon. And so a flexible school life is very, very important to us. Very, very important. And being at a desk having to do schoolwork at any given time in the day just does not work. Me having two businesses, I travel for business, and it's just not conducive to our schedule. And so the more they told me about the restrictions and when they need to be available to do their schoolwork, even not being on camera, but they need to be available 6 hours of the 8 to 9 hour day. 6 hours. When I homeschooled the first year, we did 3 to 4 hours of school. And most parents that I talk to, that's about the average, 3 to 4 hours of schoolwork in a day. And it's amazing. And I know from the first year, it's amazing how much work you can get done in 3 to 4 hours. The flexibility that's needed to live the lifestyle that we live in this household is very dependent on having freedom to kind of move and segue with whatever's going on for the day. So having to be online for 6 hours straight at any given time, 5 days a week to do schoolwork is just a no-no. So K through 12 definitely was out. I was so upset listening to her go on and on about what was required, and upset because I'm thinking, you guys are advertising this as a flexible alternative to public school when really it's not. Now, it is for some kids who are bullied at school or can't go to, traditional public school for whatever reason, it probably works. But there's a difference between virtual school and homeschool. I homeschool my children. K through 12 and Connections Academy are virtual schools, and they definitely follow the public school curriculum. They definitely, which is another, let me just say this, another reason why I wanted to make sure, as I started to think more about homeschooling and the benefits of it for myself, doing it and for my children, is because the public school education, I'm a product of public school education, and it really is about what you put into it as far as what you're going to get out of it, because everything is standard across the board. If, like I was saying about my youngest, she was in 3rd grade when we started, but once I got her to doing her work, she was flying through 3rd grade assignments like that. So I actually moved her up to 4th grade work, and she was going through the 4th grade work with no hesitation and no problem. I didn't bump her to 5th grade because I knew there were some elements of 4th grade that she did need to get, even though they were easy to concepts for her to grasp, but she definitely needed to get those, especially in the math. You need that one level of math to go to the next, I didn't want her to skip over something and then get to something and say, I don't even know the basics or the formula to figure out, this level of math. So even though she was doing very well in 4th grade, curriculum, and she was actually in the 3rd grade, I just let her complete all of her 4th grade studies. So technically now she's on 5th grade level studies. And I'm not even talking about reading, I'm talking about actual English, her social studies, her sciences, her math included. So had she been in regular public school, they never would have bumped her. Both of my daughters have had invitations to take gifted and talented tests or whatever they do to when they nominate them for gifted and talented. I let my oldest do it the first time when she was about 1st or 2nd grade, and when the results came back and she didn't get it, because I was so excited, oh my gosh, because I was offered gifted and talented in school, and my grandmother didn't let me do it. My grandmother raised me. She didn't let me do gifted and talented, and I was so mad and so upset at her, and I'm like, I'm smart, and they're saying I'm smart, and you won't let me show how smart I am and be a participant. And what I later found out is she had a conversation with the teacher who nominated me, which was not even my teacher, but I was one of the brighter kids in school, and so all of the teachers knew it, and we're in a small little city. And so another teacher reached out to my teacher, and they came together and talked to my grandmother about me being a part of the gifted and talented program. And at that time, I don't think there was really a test. It was just they moved you to the higher group of learners. And so my grandmother was like, no, because that's too much pressure for a young child. She's going to be in a grade level with children who are not only older than her, they're mature than her, and they're on a different level of learning than her. And although the learning aspect she can keep up with, there's a maturity level, and there's a being surrounded by people who are older than you and feeling the pressure to keep up. And while I still think it would have been a great opportunity for me, I can say that I do understand why my grandmother did not let me do it. But we always want to be better parents than our parents were and have better access than give better access to our children than we had. So I said that I would go ahead and let my oldest be tested because now they test you for the gifted and talented program, and they tested her, whatever it is that they do. They sent a letter and said she didn't get in. And so when I told her, I didn't think it would be a big deal, and I was like, oh, we got the letter back, you didn't get into the gifted and talented program or whatever. My child was devastated. I mean, she cried and she boohooed, and I was shocked. I didn't expect her to react like that. But that told me I will never again subject you to have to compare yourself or to try out to see if you qualify to be something higher based on what somebody thought. Because I think if the teacher sees it in you, that should be it. Put them wherever they're going to be put, and they will adapt. But now it's a test. Everything's a test. And while my oldest is very smart, she does not test well. And we've had a conversation, and I asked her, how do you feel when you take a test? And she says, that tells me right now, if I put a test in front of you of everything that you already know, the chances of you passing that test with a high mark are very low, just because you have test anxiety. My youngest, not so much. She could care less. Everything's the same to her. She just go do the work. But my oldest, she has testing anxiety, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate in life. If you go to go to a job interview, or go and do a test at a temp agency for a job, or you're learning something new, technology is my vice. I know it, but when I feel pressure to do it, or I have a deadline to meet, I'm all over the place, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm just gonna pay somebody. And I do have a technology person on my staff, on my team, that does tech for me, because it gets to be overwhelming, and everybody else is like, oh Shayla, that's easy, that's simple, you should be, but it's not for me. Even though I may know it, because I did have to learn tech at a while before I could afford to hire someone, it's not my specialty, and it gets me overwhelmed sometimes, and it gets me just exasperated, and just, it could ruin my whole day if I get stuck on a technical issue. But that's because tech is not my thing. And so learning what works for everybody and what doesn't is just as important for our children. And a lot of times we, tend to negate that, oh, it's a child, they will adapt. And children are great adapters. They are. However, we are setting them up for something later on in life, I think, that we don't really pay attention to, because we're trying to, we want our child to be the best and to be the shining star. Nothing wrong with that, but not at the expense of giving them anxiety even more than what they have. And so I want to wrap this up, because it's getting to be just a little bit longer than I wanted it to, but I really wanted to give you my clear understanding of K through 12. And again, K through 12 and Connections Academy, this video is not so much about them, but it's more about the reality and the difference between virtual school and actual homeschooling. Homeschooling being your curriculum, what you put together, and the flexibility. The flexibility is what a lot of people do for homeschooling. There's also a thing called unschooling. I know about it. I've watched and researched a little bit on it, and watched a lot of the documentaries that are on YouTube about it. But I'm not going to say I completely subscribe to it, but I am definitely a proponent for teaching my children what's not being taught. We learn a lot of African American studies. We research, and I'm learning along as well, because even when I was in school, Dr. Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, those were what we were taught. We didn't learn a lot about Harriet Tubman and what she did and what she stood for. Not just that she was a slave, but the actual workings, the world that we come from. And it doesn't matter if you are a family of African American children, or Caucasian, or Asian, or Hispanic. It doesn't matter. History is history. We didn't learn a lot about Spanish history. We didn't learn a lot about the Indian culture. We didn't learn a lot about Pacific Islanders or any of that mixed culture. We just learned the basics of what they wanted you to learn in school. And I think it's unfair. I think it's very, very sad. And I think it's unfortunate that the only way your children can get extra information about the culture, the heritage, and how everything came to be is if you teach them at home. And there's nothing against, them going to public school and you teaching them at home, but let's just be clear. When you go and work 40 hours a week and your children are at school, they come home, the last thing you're wanting to do is reteach them or teach them more curriculum just to supplement what they're not getting. And there's nothing wrong with it, but I'm just saying, putting that into perspective and being able to do that is a lot. It's a lot. I think it's your responsibility as a parent, just as well as it is the teacher's responsibility, to make sure your children are learning. But when you're trying to help them with homework that they brought from school, there's probably very little time to bring in any other elements. And if you're doing that as a parent and you're able to bring in more information to your students, your children, on top of what they're learning, kudos to you. Kudos to you for stretching yourself, or just if you have the time, for being able to do that. Homeschool, I love it, simply because, and I'll make another video just about the advantages of homeschool and how it has changed my girl's life. But our travel is a big portion of our homeschool learning. When we travel in the states, from city to city, from state to state, so many things to learn. Because they're at home, I pull out things from YouTube. We watch the integration of the schools when in Little Rock, Arkansas, and Louisiana, when they integrated the schools, special episodes, and there's questions that automatically arise. My kids are very good at asking questions, and if I don't have an answer, I'll tell them to look it up. Let's go research it. Let's go to the library and pull it up. They are great understanders of how to go to the actual library and use their library cards. They know how to get on Google and look up anything. They're very big on technology. I really push technology just because I know that is the way of the future, and it's something that I am not as advanced in as I would like to be, although I do know a lot. I actually teach a lot of technology within my business to my clients and my customers through digital programs. However, there's a lot that I don't know. There's a lot that I wish I knew. I know a little bit about coding, so they actually do a coding program, and if you are on your local library website, I think there's coding. There's freecodecamp.com or .org, and there's tons of people who've gone to Free Code Camp and actually gone on to become freelancers in coding, because the program is very vast and it's absolutely free. So there's tons and tons of things that you can do at home that the kids may not necessarily get. And my kids did go to a magnet school in Arkansas, and they went to the performing arts school. There was a math and science school. There was like an architectural school, and there was some other something. And then they had the performing arts school, and that's the school that my girls went to. So they got to do a lot in the way of acting and arts and entertainment, and so they've had those opportunities too, but there's still, for me, nothing like the ability to homeschool. And then the first year they did talk about going back to regular school, and I always said, if they ever ask, I will let them go back to regular school. But as time has gone on, even in just these 2 years, I don't see that happening now. We were on our way to somewhere traveling a couple months back, and I said, do you see how you guys are? The kids were walking. We were getting in the car, loading up the suitcases and everything, and there were kids walking, going to school past the house. And I said, do you guys see those kids? They're going to school, and you're on your way to an adventure. And if you were in school, you wouldn't be able to do that. And it's like, oh, we definitely don't want to go back to school. And, we laughed about it or whatever, but seriously, they still have access to the public school. That's part of homeschooling here in Washington State, and you may want to check with your state. But even though they're homeschooled, they still can be in cheerleading, they can be in basketball, they can play sports, and they can do all the extracurriculars. If I wanted to sign them up for those things, if they wanted to participate, they could, because they're still a part of the school district. They just don't go to the school. And so as they get a little bit older, my oldest may want to do basketball, whatever, cheerleading. If she wants to do that, then I will definitely figure out how to go through that process, because that will give them a lot of the social skills, which is another question I get asked a lot. In homeschool, there's pods, there's organizations and things like that you can sign your kids up for, and they take field trips and they do all of the cool activities and things like that. We go on field trips. They've gone to the science center multiple times. They go on actual trips. I mean, we're on airplanes traveling. There's no better field trip than that. And they're experiencing things that they would not otherwise experience. And there's some things that are non-negotiables for us. For me personally, flying first class is a non-negotiable. So when we travel as a family, my children have flown first class so much that they just come to expect it. And I say, hey, we're getting ready to go to such and such, and they're like, are we flying first class? And to some, that may seem bougie or odd or whatever, and it doesn't even matter. We're not really worried about what other people think. But it's funny to me because I didn't have that experience growing up, and because my mind has been expanded, because I'm in a world of entrepreneurship, which is like homeschool for adults. Like, you get to learn so many other things and experience so many other people, personalities, and people who are entrepreneurs just have a different mindset when it comes to doing, being, embodying, accepting, and conforming. We have different mindsets around that. We don't conform. We embody things differently, and we go after things, and we have a mind that tells us it's possible if you just believe. It's possible if you just take the leap and do it. And the everyday person that's going to a job, no knock, nothing wrong with working a job. You do what's best for you. But when you come into the world world of entrepreneurship, you just see things differently. And so I think about that for homeschool as well. Will my girls be entrepreneurs? Maybe, maybe not. They've had a business, a jewelry business, the Smart Sisters Design, and they grew older and decided that wasn't what they wanted to do, and I didn't make them do it. I didn't pressure them to do it, but I constantly talk about the freedom of entrepreneurship to them. My oldest wants to be a neurosurgeon. Yes, a neurosurgeon is a great career. It's a specialized doctor, so you will make tons of money, save lives, hopefully, every time you go and do an operation. But you still have the opportunity to be an entrepreneur and run your own facility, run your own practice, do research to find cures for brain disease, and etc. So I talk to them about things like that. It goes beyond just being a neurosurgeon. It goes beyond, my little one, she used to say she wants to be an ice cream and donut maker. Great, but do it in your own establishment. It goes beyond just doing the norm. And so I push them. My husband talks to them all the time about, you know, their worth and their quality as women when it comes to men, etc., etc. And so all of those things we get to teach them because we homeschool, whereas they're not learning that in school. In school, they want to teach them about the birds and the bees, which I think is great. You should. My girls are no short of, they're 12 and almost 10, and they both know absolutely everything there is to know, from what they've asked and what we've shared them about sex, down to being able to say no, respecting your body, making your own decision, what the Christian way is, what the regular everyday world way is, because the Christian way says wait till you're married, but the reality is we live in a world where people don't wait, and if you're not going to wait, what do you need to do? And they will tell you, you need to use a condom. So we teach them both ways, and both principles, because at the end of the day, they're my children. I want them to have the best and the best understanding. However, I want them to not be blind to the realities of the world. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what I say or what I teach. I can only hope that it's instilled in them, in their heart, in their mind, but they're going to make their own decisions. And with homeschool and the ability to homeschool, I can teach them that they're not being brainwashed or taught one thing one way because that's the way they think society thinks you should learn or should accept, and they're not being kept in the dark for anything. They're very, very innocent girls. They're very sheltered because they are homeschooled. However, I try to expand the world around them and get them a clear understanding of what the realities of the world are, and you have to figure out for yourself where you stand. It doesn't matter what mommy and daddy say. We only can tell you the principles and what the standard way should be, but at the end of the day, you got to make your own decisions. And so because of homeschool, not just being a parent, but homeschool, because we get to teach all of this on top of the curriculum, I just don't see going back to regular traditional school ever. And I don't see that they would have gotten half of the exposure that they have now had they been in a K through 12 or a Connections Academy. Connections Academy has a more flexible schedule with their curriculum. However, I remember telling them we were going to be in California for over 30 days because we were just going to go to California and stay as long as we wanted to, at least a month or two last year. And we ended up being there for like 11 days and we went somewhere else. But when I told them that during the admissions process, she says, oh, we have to check with the, I don't know what they called it, but it was like the principal of the school, and get permission for you to be out of your home state for that long. And I just thought that was the craziest thing. And then K through 12, of course, they want your child to be available X amount of hours, 6 hours in a day, actually logged in, doing schoolwork. If we're on an airplane, we can't be logged in. If we're traveling, we went to Vegas and we stayed in Vegas for like 6 days. I had business and then we just had fun. We ended up missing our plane, and so we couldn't leave till that night. And so we ended up going to the aquarium. Like, who wants to, as a child, to be tied down to doing schoolwork when we're in a different place, in a different city, in a different state, and we want to just be living and enjoying life? So homeschool is the way for us. Hopefully, in all of this, I know it's a little lengthy and it's probably all over the place, but hopefully what I've shared with you will give you some insight into virtual school versus homeschooling and just the smart family's take on it. And if you have questions, please put them below. I will answer them. And if you have additional questions, you can always reach me over on Facebook. You can send me an inbox message there on Facebook. I am I'll leave the link below. I can't think of the URL, but I'll leave the link below. And also, I will leave contact information if you're interested in K through 12 or Connections Academy. I'll leave the link to both of those below so you can check them out for yourself. And for those of you who are wondering what we're doing now, I am still homeschooling currently, but I am moving them into a private school, which is a actual homeschool. And a lot of the students that go there, their parents are entrepreneurs. The children are in extracurriculars, acting, traveling. There's my attorney's daughter actually is into horse racing and horse shows, and so she travels all over the country, all around the world, doing horse shows, horse races. And this school, the private school, allows her the ability to travel and to have the ability to go and do what she's so gifted and talented at. I think she's about 15 years old, and she's able to do all of this and still maintain her studies through the private homeschool. So it's an online school, but the curriculum is done for you. They have access to teachers and all of that, but it's a private school. It's actually a paid school, but it's a homeschool setup, so it has the flexibility of homeschool, and that's what my girls are going to be going to for this next school year. I will be putting them into that just so I don't have to do the curriculum, because as they get older, I have a middle schooler now. The math is just beyond me, and I definitely want her to have all the advantages of getting all of the support she needs, on top of having a tutor, and having a curriculum that is designed for where she's at and what level she's on, not just because that's her grade. And so there's other alternatives to you doing your own curriculum or buying the curriculum and still teaching it. You can actually put them into a private school. If you're interested in that, I can definitely give you the information. You can reach out to me on Facebook for that. If you're interested in private and paying for their private school education, that is still homeschool, and gives them the flexibility if that fits your lifestyle. But if you're interested in K through 12 or Connections Academy, again, personally, they're not for us. I don't have anything against them. Like, you know, it works for who it works for. And for some families, it's gonna work, but for us and our schedule, it's just not. And the curriculum is all based on public school curriculum, so they don't learn anything outside of what they would learn at a regular public school. And I really want them to be able to expand their learning and have the flexibility to learn beyond just what the standard is. I don't want them to be average. I don't want them to be standard. And I want them to know that it's okay to know more, to do more, to expand more, and to have more reach than the standard people in America, people in the world. It's okay to know more. It's okay to stretch your mind. Right now, for their curriculum required reading, I have them reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which I wish somebody would have handed me when I was their age. And that's what they're reading standard. Funny as it is, my husband started reading it too. So he's reading his own copy, but I actually bought them on Amazon the unabridged extended copy, updated version of Rich Dad Poor Dad, and they both have their own copies. And some days they don't want to read because they're kids, they just don't want to, but they know they have required reading every single day, and that is the required reading in the smart household / homeschool environment. And I don't know what the standard reading is for kids in high school nowadays, but I'm pretty sure Rich Dad Poor Dad is not on the list, and that is one of the best books ever that you could start reading at the age in which they are, which is 12 and almost 10. So hopefully what I've explained in this video, I know it's kind of all over the place. I had so many thoughts and I didn't write any notes down, which is a no-no for me. But if you like this video, please be sure to like it. If you have not subscribed, please do subscribe. Also, when you subscribe, there's a little bell right next to the subscription button. Be sure to tap that so that you get notification when these videos come out. I have new videos on Sundays and Wednesdays, and I want you guys to stay tuned. I have something new in the works on a whole nother YouTube channel that I think you're gonna like, especially if you are married or in a relationship, or you're looking for Mr. Right or Mrs. Right, if I have any guys watching. So stay tuned for that, and I'll have more details. And if you have not checked out the blog, be sure to go on over to themomgenius.com and check out the blog. I have a blog post over there about homeschool and some thoughts that you should think through in your pursuit to move your kids into homeschool. If you have not already taken the leap, if you're looking to start homeschooling for your children, or you've been thinking about it, wondering if it's for you, If you are a parent who works outside of the home, homeschooling is possible for you as well, and I share some of those notes and thoughts over on the blog, so be sure to check out the blog post for homeschool that I have up at themomgenius.com. And if you are a woman in business or looking to start, launch, or grow in your income online, or grow a business, and you definitely want to check out the courses and ebooks page over on themomgenius.com. If you have any other questions, comments, or thoughts, be sure to leave them below and let me know. Any questions that you have, I'll be back to answer them. Until next time, love, trust God, and love yourself. I will see you later. Bye.